You control every bite, remove foods, count everything you eat. You spend hours trying to fix your body, cutting carbs, tracking everything, pushing harder than you want to. And for a while, it works. Until it doesn't. Until your energy drops, your focus narrows, and food starts living in your head all day. And then one evening it breaks. Not because you're weak, but because the system was built on resistance. And here's the truth. Most people don't want to hear. It's not about discipline. It's about design. Because when your environment works against you, willpower becomes a daily fight. And no one wins that fight long term. But there's another way to live this. A way where staying in shape doesn't feel like constant control. And if you look at cultures where people stay naturally lean, the pattern is always the same. Not stricter. Simpler. Not extreme. Structured. So here are 7 habits that quietly change everything. Not by forcing you, but by reshaping how your system works. First, make good choices easier than bad ones. People overestimate discipline and underestimate environment. But most of your decisions are not conscious. They're automatic responses to what's around you. If the easiest option is fast, processed, and hyper-palatable, that's what you'll choose. Not because you decided to, because it's frictionless. So change the default. Keep simple, real food available. Reduce exposure to constant triggers. Remove the need to decide every time. Because when the right option is easier, you don't need to fight yourself. Second, stabilize your eating rhythm. Chaos creates cravings. When your meals are unpredictable, your body stays in a reactive mode, grabbing energy whenever it can. Not because it needs it in that moment, but because it doesn't trust the next one. But when there's rhythm, something changes. Your system starts anticipating. Hunger becomes clearer, and the urge to snack randomly drops. Not because you forced it, because the pattern became reliable. Discipline becomes lighter when the day is predictable. Third, slow down enough to notice. You don't overeat because you lack control. You overeat because your body doesn't get the signal in time. When you eat fast, distracted, disconnected, you finish before your system can respond, and then you chase a signal that already came. Just too late. Slow it down. Slightly. Stay with the process. Remove distractions for a few minutes, and suddenly the same meal satisfies more, because awareness changes intake, not rules, not restrictions, attention. Fourth, treat eating as a moment, not a background activity. Most people don't eat. They multitask food, phone, screen, conversation, movement, everything except the act itself. And when eating becomes background, your brain doesn't register it fully, which means it keeps asking for more. Not because you're still hungry, because the experience didn't land, so create a boundary, even a small one. Sit down, focus, finish, and move on. Fifth, reduce portion size without creating resistance. You don't need to feel full to the limit to be satisfied, but most people don't notice the difference, because they eat past the point where the signal arrives. Smaller portions solve this without pressure, not by restricting, but by removing the excess before the decision even happens. And here's what matters. Your brain doesn't measure satisfaction by calories. It measures completion. When the portion ends, the experience ends. And the signal of enough becomes clearer. Less excess, less conflict. Same sense of completion. Sixth, train your taste, not your willpower. Most people think they crave junk food because they're addicted. But here's the thing. taste is learned. And once your baseline shifts, your cravings follow. If your daily food is highly processed, intense in sugar, salt, and artificial flavors, your brain adapts to that level of stimulation, and everything simple starts to feel bland. But reverse that slowly. Replace one thing at a time with something real, and your perception changes. Not instantly, but steadily, until what used to feel normal becomes too much, and what used to feel boring becomes satisfying. You're not fighting cravings. You're retraining them. 7th, move as part of life, not as punishment. Most people treat movement like a separate task, something to schedule, something to complete, something to feel guilty about when skipped. But the body doesn't need bursts. It needs consistency, small movement throughout the day, walking, standing, changing positions, repeated without effort, does more than occasional intensity followed by long inactivity. Because, again, it's not about how hard, it's about how often and when movement is built into your day. It stops being something you avoid and becomes something you don't think about. And this is where everything connects. These habits are not about control. They're about removing the need for control. Less chaos, more structure, less pressure, more alignment. Because once your environment supports you, your behavior follows. And when your behavior stabilizes, your results stop depending on how motivated you feel that day. So you don't need a stricter plan. You need a simpler system, something you can repeat without thinking, without negotiating, without fighting yourself every single day. Because the goal was never to win against your body. It was to stop fighting it in the first place.